We begin with this tonight. Is the drug that is used to kill dogs and cats in your dog's food? It is a question that senior investigative reporter Lisa Fletcher set out to answer 7 months ago.
Well, tonight we have her explosive results, and Lisa is here with that now. Lisa?
Allison and John, the FDA just confirmed it will investigate and take enforcement action against the company we're exposing as having the euthanasia drug pentobarbital in its food. And while that is an excellent proactive response, the agency charged with protecting what we and our pets consume has a poor history of keeping pet food free of contaminants.
Nobody should have to go through what we went through. Nobody. It's not fair. I mean, I would give anything to see Tallulah again.
New Year's Eve 2016 was no celebration for Nikki Mail and her family.
They were falling over, they were running into the walls, they were convulsing.
Within minutes of sharing a can of Evinger's pet food among her 5 dogs, she was racing the lifeless animals to the emergency vet.
They said that they weren't sure that what was going on, but it didn't look good.
Hours later, devastating news.
They said that Tallulah wasn't going to make it.
Desperate for answers, they sent the remainder of the food to a specialized lab and drove Tallulah's lifeless body to a veterinary pathologist for a post-mortem examination.
Poisoning from the dog food, that's what killed her.
But it wasn't just any poison. It was pentobarbital, a lethal drug most commonly used to euthanize dogs, cats, and some horses. The deadly toxin is never permitted to kill animals that are part of the food supply, and would violate federal law if it was.
Pet food violates federal law, is openly allowed by the FDA to violate federal law. Billion-dollar-a-year companies are making profit selling illegal adulterated products to unknowing consumers in the U.S. every day.
Susan Thixton has been studying and writing about the pet food industry for decades.
Do consumers have the information they need to make safe choices about pet food?
They have no information. A consumer has to become a private detective to learn what's really in their food.
So we decided to find out. We partnered with Ellipse Analytics, a lab that specializes in testing food for contaminants. Founder Kevin Hicks.
I think you have a duty to understand what you're selling to human beings and pets. And I think that the obligation is on you to understand what is and is not in your product.
We tested 62 samples of wet dog food across more than 24 brands for the euthanasia drug pentobarbital. After months of tests and retests, one brand came back positive for pentobarbital over and over again. In total, we tested 15 cans of Gravy Train. 9 cans, 60% of the sample, were positive for pentobarbital. And while the levels detected were not lethal, under federal law, they are also not permitted at any concentration. Gravy Train is made by Big Heart Pet Foods and owned by Smuckers. According to Nielsen data, it accounts for more than $40 million of the company's annual revenue. Their website touts high-quality food that meets rigorous evaluation and testing requirements. So, how is pentobarbital, a drug not allowed to be used on animals intended for food, getting into the food?
It comes from euthanasia of animals using that euthanasia drug. So these animals could be dogs, they could be cats, they could be horses. But how is it getting into the pet food? If they say it doesn't come from dogs and cats and horses, where does it come from? It doesn't come from outer space.
Dr. Nicholas Dodman is the Chief Scientific Officer for the Center for Canine Behavior Studies. He is the former director of the Animal Behavior Program at Tufts University. He says the level of pentobarbital in the food is really beside the point.
Whether it's doing something or nothing, what's it doing there? Where did it come from? If they don't like the explanation is coming from animals that have been euthanized, what is their explanation as to how it gets in there?
A question neither the FDA nor Smuckers would answer. One possibility? Experts tell us the animals that have been euthanized are picked up by renderers who process the carcasses, which may be blended into pet food. In a 2004 report to Congress, sources for rendered materials were identified as, among other things, dead animals from farms, animal shelters, and other facilities. Under federal law, these are adulterated ingredients. Adulterated ingredients, which are defined partly as an animal which has died otherwise than by slaughter, are illegal in all food for humans and animals. Yet in its own compliance policy, the FDA acknowledges it is violating the law and states pet food consisting of material from diseased animals or animals which have died otherwise than by slaughter, which is in violation of 402A5, will be considered fit for animal consumption.
FDA tells industry, yeah, it's a violation of law, but go ahead, we're not going to do anything.
We asked the FDA to explain its policy that is allowing adulterated ingredients into pet food. They declined. We asked Smucker's to answer a series of questions about its quality control, suppliers, and testing of its products. The company chose not to respond to any of our questions, but did provide a written statement that, in part, says, "We launched and are conducting a thorough investigation, including working closely with our suppliers to determine the accuracy of these results and the methodology used."
I don't trust any dog food companies anymore, and reading that the law is not enforced and it's just they kind of do their own thing, I need to make sure that they're eating human grade food.
Since Tallulah's death, Nikki's been making pet food at home, so she knows exactly what's in it.
I miss Tallulah a lot. Not fair. But I hope that other animals can be saved by this.
FDA tests show is responsible for Tallulah's death. Our tests came back negative. You can read full responses from both Smucker's and the FDA on the ABC7 smartphone app or on our website. We've posted the questions that we posed to both that went unanswered. If you're concerned about pet food safety, you can call the FDA, Smucker's, and their subsidiary Big Heart Brands, which makes Gravy Train. You will find all of that information on our app as well.
So, Lisa, you mentioned there that Smucker's says they're looking into the accuracy of your results. So tell us, who did your testing?
So we used two highly accredited analytical labs, one of which the FDA used when pentobarbital was discovered last year. Each product was tested at least twice to make sure our results were accurate. You can watch an entire story that goes behind the scenes in the lab to show how this was done on the ABC7 app. And of course, we're going to be following all of this very closely.
And you know, they're not just pets, they're family members. So anytime you put them at risk, this is a problem.
Yeah, I think this is one of those threads that ties pretty much every American together.
All right, Lisa, thanks. We'll look for some follow-up on this as well.